volcanoes, and thermoterranic activity. I know that you want dates. Think of it this way. If you had dates, you would manifest the when of things. If you rather observe the course of events and the changing of conditions, you will develop greater powers of adaptability. This will empower your development of consciousness and, as well, activate the DNA because of the energy you will be moving through you. You are like the earth, made from the same elements as she. She will mirror you, and you will mirror her. What she is doing is, in the long run, for the advancement of the species. The elements will respond to you, and as you clear away any confusion and indecision, she will come to your aid in ways as yet indescribable. The opportunity for you to change in accordance to her frequencies all arise with greater and greater fluidity as you yourself harmonize with her already advanced vibratory fields. Be in dominion with Mama, the earthly mother. Here we go. The onslaught of the coming changes has been, in a sense, delayed and softened so that you might adjust and be better able to handle the shifting of frequencies and merge into the new consciousness that is and will result. Much like the mother ignoring the raging of their adolescent children as they go through their growing pains, you personally might ignore her interaction with us. She has never ignored her interactions with her children. Nope. We forget. There will be severe tectonic and thermoterra, New World, activity in the U.S. As it is seen, there will be a series of major earthquakes in the central U.S. They will begin in southern Mississippi, the Valley area, and continue for around a 5-year period with increased intensity, culminating around the Yellowstone area. The eastern portions of Montana, especially the Helena area and south, going toward the eastern borders and down toward Wyoming, will be involved. There is a new mountain range being born, and it's here. It will emerge toward the latter portion of the next century as the intensity of the earth changes increases. Thermoterra, rivers of flowing magma that move below the earth's crust. Thermoterranic. The movement of this magma will, as the earth's crust begins to compress and fracture due to pressure from the plate movement and the building up of heat in the earth's core, cause fractures to appear upon the earth's surface. These fractures will cause, at first, strange behavior of the earth herself. We will see whirlpools of soil that will swallow houses and even large portions of land quite suddenly. This as the infrastructure below begins to collapse and the energies released alter the physics of the geophysical compounds. Scientists will be baffled because they will not be able to explain such occurrences by former means and technology. In many of the areas where this begins, it will only be a short time before the heat below the surface heats up the surface to the point at which it is combustible and will burst into flames. This will cause many areas throughout New Mexico to become volatile. Look up the definition of volatile. You can expect existing water aquifers to suddenly disappear in many areas, as well as many sources of potable water. It will become contaminated due to toxic gases becoming released below the Earth's surface through the labyrinth of existing tunnels that exist in the area. This was explained in Last Cry, for this will begin the firestorms, bringing sudden devastation where they ignite and are fueled by high winds, which will be at times better than 150 miles per hour. Yep, that's happening right now. But as the horse goes, we can change the narrative. Continue reading. The firestorms will destroy untold millions of acres throughout the western states. Some will be the result of natural occurrences, including accidents to human error. Others still will be the result of accidents and covert activities occurring in the secret underground complexes developed by the military, along with alien or extraterrestrial forces. The nature of these fires will be unnatural. That's what isn't passing the smell test lately. Something's just not right. Doesn't feel right. Doesn't feel natural. Something's really wrong. I just can't put my finger on. Hey. These fires, seemingly natural but very unnatural, will have extreme pulsating heat. Heat at the core. They will seem to breathe and take on a life of their own, as helpless firefighters and even the military stands by, unable to do anything due to the intensity of the heat and the speed of which the fires travel. In many places where these particular fires occurs, the rock will fuse like glass and appear to have in many places a patina finish, such as seen on fine pottery. This will be beautiful to see after the surface cools down and the rains wash the ash and soot off the stones. Whole mountainous areas will appear as colorful as paintings in the desert landscape due to the mineral content and different reactions to the flame and heat. It will be hard to remember during these terrible firestorms that this is one of the ways the earth renews herself to purification. The event is, in a way, a kind of forced reduction in human population, allowing the forest to renew themselves over the next century. However, do keep in mind the secret complex reality. Some of this forced human population reduction to these forest regions will be international, intentional. I'm being called to read and it's late. Do the best I can in articulating. So an agenda for the emerging of alien and human life upon, air quoting, a new Earth. Presently, the curious mind can discover for themselves documents detailing this strange agenda, wherein forests and wilderness areas of the U.S. are to be cleared of human inhabitants for a 75-mile buffer zone. Now, this is strange because I was just watching something about this, doing a little research on this non-profit corporation. Fraudulent, fraudulent fucks. Okay, I point the finger and I say fraudulent fucks. Now I continue reading. Release that shit somewhere, huh? Here we are. I think it was called Agenda 21, something like that. Whatever. It gigs up. This accordance to plans to make all human inhabitants for 75-mile buffer zone, removing these people from the forest and wilderness areas of a predetermined globally protected region. Ooh, yeah, and that is what I was doing earlier. Nonprofit owns protected and then eminent domain, and there's so many other things that tie into this strange can of woo-woo. Just connect the dots. Too much for my brain right now. We will see cycles of these earthquakes begin to build up in central Mexico. The thermoterranic activity will cause the magma to move into the areas it has not been previously. That's heavy too. Heavy talk. Heavy vision. The basalt and limestone near the seashores in Mexico will collapse with greater frequency. Also, the volcanoes will begin to become even more active than they are now. Those will start the movement of the Pacific Rim, west coast from Mexico to San Francisco, California, to move in a northward direction as the prophecies have foretold. See Last Cry. I highly recommend you buy that book or find it, call to it. Native American Prophecies and Tales of End Times. It's good. Heavy too. True. Again, in the Southwest, we have problems arising in New Mexico and Arizona. This will encompass a very large area reaching as far south as 200 miles south of Mexico City. The sleeping giants are being disturbed knowingly that lie beneath the ground in the havupi, the lava tubes, below the surface. The continued drilling for natural gas in the north, combined with the exploration for oil in Mexico, will cause the giants to awaken. This is an old prophecy, which has been ignored. There have been, and will be, thermoterranic activity continuing to intensify, and we will see many strange things occur upon the landscape. Fissures, sometimes several miles long, appearing overnight, from which escape steam and toxic gases, creating a fog of death over the land. By the middle of the first decade of the new century, we will witness many millions of square miles of the old forest turn to ashes from the enormous number of firestorms. There will also be a strange kind of firestorm. Fires that destroy thousands of acres beneath the surface of the land. Where, in places the surface temperature of the land itself will reach temperatures high enough to explode bushes and grasses into flame. Once this activity has begun, the already existing Havupi tubes, the lava, will come and become increasingly hotter. It's hard for me to read. The heat will build up to such a point that thermoactivity will be noticed strongly along the Pacific coast up into British Columbia. New hot springs will appear, and there will be constant trembling of the earth. When Popo blows in Mexico, there will be 3 or 4 eruptions before the big event. It will also trigger the mountain known as the Smoking Mirror. This will result in severe volcanic upheavals between 2 and will, in a sense, rock the plate, causing the escape valves that have protected the area from self-destruction, such as hot springs and other geothermic activities, to respond to the movement of the magma below. The 7th time Popo blows will begin the great devastation. The faults offshore will open and the seas will be steaming pools of water. Sea life will die quickly, and the gases escaping from the underground passages will be extremely toxic, raising the ocean temperatures as much as 15 degrees or even more. Once the plates have been rocked sufficiently, there will be a response from the entire range all the way up to British Columbia, Canada. In the Pacific Northwest, one of the sisters will erupt. There will be 3 eruptions and then grandfather, Rainier, will, as has been prophesied, erupt, and it will be devastating. When this happens, the sleeping giants will respond. We will see the volcanic activity that has not been experienced for many ages. There are details of the Rainier occurrences we can expect again in my book, Last Cry. The Pacific area, all the way along the coasts of Asia, Japan, and Indonesia, will be devastated and will experience intense reformation of the land in that area. Many areas already rising in the oceans there, and the ancient cities are reappearing, bringing great questions as to the previously thought of historical accountings of the origins of mankind. There will be a series of earthquakes in central Mexico, 8 to 10 on the Richter scale, accompanied by firestorms and the spontaneous combustion storms in the desert areas. The ground will heat up and the volatile desert scrub will literally burst into flames. This will be seen in the southern Arizona regions east of Phoenix and all the way to Blythe, California. The second series of earthquakes will lead into the eruption of Grandmother below the surface of Mexico City. A dome will begin to rise, and then that what appears as a new volcano will appear to form. This will break open, and force of Grandmother's eruption will be felt around the world. What was once Mexico City will literally be blown into the heavens, and the sun will not be seen for many days. This is a potential narrative. It could be different. It could play out different. Always, I'm trying to draw hope out of a stone that's got some hope in it. It's gonna happen. It's happening. It's heavy. Due to all the debris that will be several miles high in the air, this will cause a huge cloud to wrap itself around the Earth's girth, and the darkness will cause much panic, and those into the Armageddon beliefs. This eruption of Grandmother will bring a response again from Rainier. It's like the volcanoes are talking to each other. Which will call to the cousins in New Mexico. There, many of the sleeping giants will begin to awaken, and this will start to occur all the way up to central Montana. Yellowstone will become a flowing bed of magma in many areas, and new rivers will emerge as well as new lakes. The granite of the Tetons will keep much of the seismographic activity limited to moderate effect. However, outside the mountains in the flatland, there will be great swelling, and like the tail of the lizard, the ripple effect will cause some severe destruction. Another result of the volcanoes will be as it was seen in vision: cold weather in certain areas where it was once warm. Also, certain things will no longer grow where they once grew normally. New plants will begin to appear in many areas as we find ourselves moving into a new cycle of weather patterns that will be very unstable, at least in the transitionary stages, which could last as long as 40 years. We will need to focus on new methods of growing foodstuffs and many things of this nature. It will bring people back to a more home-based system of self-sufficiency. However, it should be seriously considered that we will not be able to depend on the natural weather to grow our crops and feed our livestock off those crops as well. It's time to break out of the boxes and be creative. When it's staring you in the face, you can no longer ignore it. As we near the mid-century, we will see many new waterways appear, and new vegetation will appear as many areas begin to take on a completely different nature. Temperate areas will become either hotter or colder, depending on the final flux of the magnetic poles. Think of the magnetic poles as being fluid and not solid. If one were to upset a large bowl of water, there would be much rippling before the water finally settled. We shall see. See. Into me, see.